So, what if the world around you, everything that feels so solid and, well, real, what if it's actually more like a dream you've just stepped into?
Hmm, that's a pretty arresting thought to start with.
It is, isn't it? Today on the Deep Dive, we're really getting into the fascinating ideas of Neville Goddard, specifically from his lecture, Step into the Picture, Who God Really Is.
Right. And for you, our listener, always looking to grasp knowledge quickly but thoroughly, this offers quite a different lens on reality and maybe on the power you hold.
Exactly. This isn't about abstract philosophy, not really. It's rooted in a very specific personal experience Goddard had and what that might mean. We're using excerpts from his lecture as our guide here.
And his core argument, the mission for us today, is to unpack this idea that our imagination, what he calls our wonderful human imagination, isn't just, daydreaming.
No, he claims it's the actual spirit of God dwelling in us.
And that this imagination is what's fundamentally shaping everything we experience.
It's a bold claim. He takes familiar scripture, things like, with God, all things are possible, or God is spirit, and the spirit of God dwells in us.
And also that powerful line from Isaiah, I form the light, and I create darkness. I make the weal, and I create the woe. I am the Lord who do all these things. He interprets these very directly through this lens of imagination.
So his central point, God and your imagination, they're one and the same thing. And everything we see, all these natural effects, they start as a spiritual cause, an imaginal act.
Which immediately makes you wonder, well, if that's true, why isn't my life exactly as I imagine it right now?
Right, the million-dollar question. Goddard suggests our current reality is actually the result of past imaginings, things we might have imagined consciously or unconsciously, maybe fleetingly, that we've totally forgotten about now.
Like seeds planted ages ago that are only just sprouting.
Yeah, sort of. It makes you think about all those passing thoughts, assumptions, even worries you have. Are they shaping things without you realizing?
And he uses this interesting analogy about presence. He says the room you're in right now might feel more real than your own home simply because your conscious attention, your awareness, is here.
It ties reality to where you place your focus, doesn't it?
Exactly. And it's not just physical places, it's about consciously placing yourself through imagination into a desired state of being. And this leads into his really detailed personal story.
Yes, the stepping into the picture experience. This is crucial to his whole teaching. He talks about having these incredibly clear visions, almost like 3D paintings popping into his mind.
Not just vague ideas, but like specific scenes.
Totally specific. Interiors of homes, hotel suites, fully furnished, appearing while he was just sitting there or lying down.
Wow. And then what?
Well, this is the key part. He says his consciousness would kind of follow the vision. He'd find himself inside these imagined scenes.
Inside them, like actually there.
That's what he describes. He says they gained cubic reality depth, solidity the moment his awareness entered them. He could even leave and come back later, re-enter the same imagined scene, and it would still feel completely real.
That repeated experience must have been quite something. Challenging, even.
You'd think so. And it led him to deliberately try and push it further. He decided to consciously enter one of these scenes, a dressing room in a larger suite, and just stay there, explore it properly.
Like a deliberate, conscious journey into an imagined space.
Precisely. And he notes some strange details, like the room looked about 30 by 20 feet from the outside, the initial vision, but once he was in it, it felt more like 10 by 7.
Huh, perception shift. And did he interact with it?
Oh yeah, completely. Opened a door, walked down a corridor. It wasn't passive observation. He was acting within this reality he knew he'd entered through imagination.
Okay, this is where it gets really wild.
It does. He encounters 2 women in this dimly lit hallway, and because he knows how he got there, he just tells them, ladies, this is all a dream.
How did that go down?
About as well as you'd expect. They seemed startled, maybe a bit offended, wanted to get away from him. But the interesting part,
What?
they couldn't just walk through the wall next to them. It was solid for them, just as it was for him. The rules of that reality applied, even though he was aware of its origin.
So a shared experience of solidity within the imagined construct.
Exactly. And then he sees a chandelier, and it sparks a memory of a real one in a friend's house, even down to a tiny detail like an almost invisible wire that reinforces the dream aspect. For him, it's pulling from memory. But when he reached out and touched it, it felt completely solid, physical.
Wow. So that's the core paradox he keeps coming back to. Knowing it started as imagination, but experiencing it as totally sensually real.
Yeah. And eventually, this intense reality made him feel this real urgency, like, I need to get back.
Back to his physical body.
Right.
Yeah.
He remembered his life, his wife, his daughter, bills to pay, earthly responsibilities. He needed to be physically present for those.
But how do you leave a reality that feels completely solid, even if you know you imagined it? Was there a door-marked exit?
Apparently not. He couldn't find a normal way out. And he started to worry, what if someone finds my physical body just lying there, unresponsive? They might think I'm ill, misdiagnose me.
A legitimate concern, I suppose, if you're genuinely experiencing this. So what did he do?
He remembered something from another earlier experience, a time he woke himself from a dream by focusing intensely on a feeling. The feeling of holding on to a solid cement pile on a beach.
Oh, so sensory focus was the key.
That was his hypothesis. So there, in the imagined dressing room, he closed his imagined eyes, I guess, and tried with all his might to feel his head on his pillow back in his bed.
Just recreate that physical sensation.
Exactly. It took a few tries, wasn't instant, but eventually he started to feel something beneath his head. A gradual return.
And was it smooth?
Not quite. He describes experiencing catalepsy first. Being aware, back connected to his body, but completely unable to move, frozen. Yeah. Then, slowly, he regained control. A finger, an arm, until he could reach out and actually feel his wife next to him.
And then he opened his physical eyes.
And saw his familiar bedroom. And in that moment, he had this huge realization, the cornerstone of his teaching. The Spirit of God dwells in me, and he is my own wonderful human imagination.
So the experience led directly to the core belief. God made the world real by entering it, by being present within it, just as he had entered his imagined scene.
That was his conclusion, and the implications are massive, aren't they, if our imagination is this divine spirit?
It means we're not really trapped in our bodies in the way we usually think. Our imagination, our consciousness can travel. It can make other places, other states feel real just by being there.
He even extends this to death, seeing it not as an end, but just shedding the physical body, the garment. Our true self, the imagining consciousness, is immortal and just keeps creating realities in different states.
And the point of this life, then?
According to Goddard, it's to awaken this power, this conscious being, fully within ourselves while we're here, to become aware of who we truly are.
Which brings us to the practical side. How do we use this? He talks about entering the state of the wish fulfilled.
Right. The idea is that our desires, our dreams, feel distant or unreal until we consciously step into the feeling of already having them.
Like that analogy he uses of someone struggling financially.
Yeah. Logic says, you're broke, it's impossible. But Goddard says, using imagination, that person can mentally inhabit the state of being wealthy, feel it, assume it.
And that act of assuming the feeling is what starts to make it manifest externally.
That's the theory. He backs it up with his own stories, too, like the famous one from his time in the Army during World War II.
Ah, the discharge story. Tell us about that.
Well, he desperately wanted an honorable discharge to go home to New York. So every night, he imagined himself already back in his New York apartment, felt the reality of it, the cubic reality, as he calls it.
He lived it in his imagination.
Vividly. And then, despite his commanding officer initially refusing his application,
Still happened.
he had a vision, almost like words appearing on a blank sheet, stating his discharge was approved. And apparently, his commander then inexplicably reversed his decision. 10 days later, Goddard had his honorable discharge.
Wow. So for him, these weren't just nice ideas. They were lived experiences.
Exactly. He stresses that personal experience is key. He mentions other things, too, encountering figures he identified as the Son of God, experiencing ascension, all pointing back to the power within the imagination.
And this leads him to say that bold thing. Nothing in this world happens by a natural cause. It's all spiritual.
Yeah, he really doubles down on that. He gives an example, like, if you intensely admire someone, maybe you could even manifest a similar physical ailment they have just through that strong, imaginal, emotional connection without any physical link.
That's quite a claim. It challenges our whole understanding of cause and effect.
Completely. He quotes William Blake, too, who said something similar. Every natural effect has a spiritual cause. A natural cause only seems, it is a delusion.
Of the perishing vegetable memory, meaning our physical senses only grasp the surface. The real cause is imaginal, spiritual.
And every imaginal act, Goddard says, sends a quiver through omniscience. It instantly impacts the whole structure of reality.
So how do we consciously do this? If it's all about imagination, what's the technique?
Feeling. It always comes back to feeling. You enter the desired state by asking, what would the feeling be like were it true? And then you cultivate that feeling.
He connects that to Scripture too, doesn't he? Happy is the man that feels after him and finds him.
For in him we live and move and have our being. The idea is God isn't far away. God is that feeling presence, the I amness within you. He says, I am he.
And the lack of faith in that I am he, that's the fundamental issue, the only real sin in his view.
Right. All possibilities already exist, he says, within the human imagination. We just select which one we experience by choosing the feeling of that state.
And the more vivid, the more sensory detail you bring into that imagined state,
The more real it becomes inwardly, and the more likely it is to manifest outwardly.
he even tackles the problem of evil or suffering. If imagination, God, creates everything.
Then it must create the bad stuff too. He points to scripture like, I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. The interpretation is that the one divine source is responsible for all experiences, positive and negative. So don't blame anyone else.
It's a challenging idea. Takes responsibility to a whole new level.
Definitely. Oh, and he makes a point to distinguish his stepping in from what people usually call astral projection.
How so?
He felt astral projection was often more like involuntary dreaming, maybe limited by your existing beliefs, like bumping into a wall because you believe walls are solid. His method was about conscious, deliberate entry and merging with the imagined reality, uniting the dreamer and the dream.
Interesting distinction. Conscious creation versus passive experience.
Exactly. And despite all the talk of power and creation, he does circle back at the end to love. He concludes that underneath it all, the fundamental nature of this God, this imagination, this ultimate reality, is actually infinite love.
So even the difficult experiences are somehow rooted in love.
That seems to be his final perspective. So, wrapping this up for you, our listener, the big takeaway from Goddard's lecture is really this. Your own imagination isn't just for, thinking up stories.
Yeah.
It's presented as the actual creative spirit of God operating as you.
And because of that, you have this potential power to shape your reality. Not through force, but by consciously choosing a state, stepping into it imaginatively, and feeling it is real right now.
Making that inner reality vivid, assuming the feeling of the wish already fulfilled.
Which leaves us with a thought, maybe a challenge for you to ponder. If this creative power truly resides within your imagination, what pictures, what states of being are you going to consciously step into today?
How can you cultivate the feeling of your desires being real right now and see what unfolds? It's really an invitation to explore that incredible potential that, according to Goddard, is just waiting within you.